This interview is brought to you by OKCoin Crypto Exchange, where you can buy, sell, and trade your favorite cryptocurrencies, and you don't have to pay high fees. OKCoin charges low fees, the lowest in the industry. You can also stake your crypto and keep 100% of the rewards. OKCoin does not charge any fees when it comes to staking. In fact, it is the only exchange where you can buy, sell, and trade Miami coin and also stake Miami coin at a high APY, currently at 280%. OKCoin also has a great referral program that if you refer a friend, you guys can split $100 in Bitcoin. So be sure to sign up with OKCoin, link in the description. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto channel, your home for crypto news and interviews. With me today is Brian Bondy, who's the co-founder and CTO of Brave and Basic Attention Token. Brian, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Tony. Nice to be here, and thanks for having me.
Brian, I'm a big fan of both Brave and the Basic Attention Token. I use the Brave browser. I have everybody in my household using it, earning Basic Attention Token. I'm invested in Basic Attention Token. So excited to speak with you today. Let's start with your background. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Sure. So as I mentioned, from Canada. I grew up as a kid just on a gardening farm. This is a time before mobile phones and before the average household had an internet. So I kind of, I got into liking programming, and I would get magazines from the local bookstore and kind of copy in the code and do that kind of thing. I actually called Borland for my first C++ compiler on the phone because you couldn't order on the internet back then. So I had my mom do that. She had called and mailed in a check, and then eventually the box came back and shipped to us with my first C++ compiler. It wasn't until high school that I got into really like coding a lot of things. I kind of got obsessed with implementing things from scratch. So I started with things like data structures, algorithms, and then I got into like compression libraries, building those. I really liked reading specs and kind of figuring out how things worked. So like I did like a ICO encoder and decoder for icons, BMP, GIF, JPG, PNG. So all these image file formats, I would learn how to like read them in, manipulate them, write them back out. And then also like network protocols. So I coded like FTP libraries, HTTP libraries from scratch, SMTP, POP3, a bunch of different protocols like that.
Wow.
I used Etherscan at the time, it's called Wireshark now, to create like a MSN Messenger client for Linux. Did a lot of computer vision stuff, made games like a 3D Tetris. Did a Nutella servant is like client and server. That's like file sharing thing. So I did one of those early on, but there was like litigation at the time, so I didn't end up shipping anything for it. I think it was like the Grokster lawsuit back then. And then I did like a TDI filter email encryption, decryption thing. Basically, I just spent all my time, kind of all my available time coding as a kid in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, before you were co-founded Brave and Bat, what companies did you work at? I looked at your LinkedIn profile, so you're at Mozilla. I think you can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So for about a decade, maybe even longer, I founded my own company. It was called VisionWorks and Roboback. There's two different companies there. And that was acquired by a company in Toronto. And then after that, I went to Evernote and worked on the Windows client there. Also worked on Mozilla Firefox for quite a while. And that's where I met Brendan at first. And then after Mozilla, I left there for Khan Academy. And then after Khan Academy came Brave.
Wow. I mean, you've done so much as far as coding and building. And how did, you mentioned you met Brendan Ike. Obviously, the two of you co-founded Brave and Basic Attention Token. Can you tell us about how that conversation or the genesis of the idea that, hey, let's go start a browser?
Yeah, sure. So when I was at Mozilla, I remember I was at a summit there, and that's like they had 1,600 employees at the time, so they got them all together basically at a big conference, and that's where I kind of got introduced to Brendan Eich and started talking to him more. And I remember I had to work up the courage just to ask him to get a picture because I was a fan of him at the time. So looking back to that day, I can't imagine today where I co-founded the company with, but come a long way since then. So in 2014, in August, was the first time that he had emailed me. This was after the summit, after I left for Khan Academy. I was sitting in my bed next to my wife, and I just turned to her and I was like, holy crap, the creator of JavaScript just emailed me and said he wanted to talk to me. So we set up a meeting, and he talked about this idea. So it was his idea to basically like the whole putting users first, users in control, users own their own data was like the biggest point. Then we got into like we can block things with like by having a built-in ad blocker, we can block the trackers and all the bad things on the web. And he also had the idea of like allowing publishers to get paid for the lost revenue because of the blocking. And then also allowing users to get paid for the attention that they're giving instead of like the old ad tech system, which doesn't do that. They just do the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you, obviously basic attention tokens is built on Ethereum. It's a token on the Ethereum network.
Yeah.
And before this, did you hear about Bitcoin and crypto? Was this your first introduction to the world of crypto?
Yeah, I had heard about Bitcoin before, but I didn't really buy into it and get really obsessed with it until I really started Brave. So maybe like 2015, 2016 was when I first got into Bitcoin. And yeah, I really became obsessed with it. Started watching all the YouTube content, like yours, for example. I watch yours like every day, basically, by the way.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah. And also just reading any books that I could come across. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm certainly I'm humbled to hear that someone of your caliber who co-founded Brave is watching my content. So appreciate that.
Cool. No problem.
What do you have in your crypto portfolio? I got to ask. I'm assuming basic attention token. Anything else?
Yeah, I have that. Bitcoin, Ethereum, mostly big caps, to be honest. Solana, Litecoin, Uniswap. You'd be happy to know XRP. Polkadot, Chainlink, Cardano, probably some other small ones. But those are the main ones, probably.
Wow, you're pretty well diversified. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the big news recently we heard was of the new wallet that is set up in the Brave browser. I tested it out. It is really cool. Very nice interface. I love the ease of use. Tell us about that and what are the different features?
Sure. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think anyways, I'm biased. So we started with just a fork of MetaMask named Crypto Wallets. And MetaMask didn't really like that we were doing that. So they did a license change in response to that. So they remained open source, but their license was not open basically. So it wasn't free for commercial use to use it or include in another product. So that I'm actually really happy in hindsight that they did that because it led to this new wallet, which I think is going to be a lot better in the long run. We kind of built a team around that. So now we have a big team, like almost as big as the browser team itself, just working on wallets. So there's a very, very big investment in Brave into this wallet. This time around, it's not an extension. So before, when it was a fork, we were kind of very limited because it's an extension, and you don't want to load an extension by default because when you open the browser, there's an extra process that's running. And then if someone compares that side to side with Chrome, they're like, oh, okay, why is this using more memory right off the bat? So the new native rewrite just basically makes it part of Chromium. So there's no extra resources that are being used like there would be if it was an extension. Other problems with extensions is that there's tons of like NPM dependencies. Like a typical project can have like thousands of them. Like I believe MetaMask probably has thousands and thousands of them. And there's different, like if you run NPM audit on it, you'll find a bunch of security problems with these packages. And I don't like rolling the dice on something like wallet that's holding user funds, right? And the UI just wasn't that great in MetaMask, so I'm happy to see the new wallet where we could really focus on the new UI. So yeah, the rewrite from scratch is in C++, but we're also going to be adding in some Rust parts with Solana. it works with not just Ethereum, but any EVM compatible network like Polygon, XDAI, Avalanche C Chain, Binance Smart Chain, etc. So you can just add those networks just like normal. For any dApp that you visit, you can just select the MetaMask option because that's like the website's UI, right? So we can't control that, or we could, but we don't want to go into mess with people's sites. So you just select the MetaMask option and it's compatible with Brave Wallet. And if it's not compatible, we consider it a bug and we try to fix it ASAP. I did get a hot fix out for it, but yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's looking good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, I just said it's looking good.
Yeah, I love it. I was playing around with it. So to confirm, built-in wallet, not an extension. And you can, from what I was reading, you could buy, sell crypto, and which crypto assets do you support?
So anything that's a ERC20, ERC 721, 1155. So any fungible or non-fungible token, basically on any of these EVM compatible networks, or the built-in ones. We are adding support for Bitcoin currently, and also for Solana, obviously, and for Filecoin too.
And I'm assuming on the roadmap is to add pretty much almost all the top cryptos, right? Support for it at least.
Yeah, starting with Solana and Bitcoin and Filecoin are the current ones that we have in progress right now, but I'm sure that'll expand. Like UTXO model with Bitcoin will, like Litecoin won't be that much different. It's also a fork of that, and then like maybe Doge or something, for example, because it's a fork of Litecoin. So
and then eventually like things like XRP and whatever else in the market, Cardano.
Yeah, sure. We're open to adding, like, we want to basically support as much as we can, kind of like a ledger supports a lot of different cryptocurrencies.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I love that. And it's just so easy. You open up your browser and you have access to your wallet right there. And, as far as, because you mentioned Ethereum based tokens obviously are built straight into it. So I'm assuming you can support NFTs.
Yeah, we do currently. You have to manually add it, but it'll show that you have a balance for it. But we want to take that NFT support to the next level. So like we want to have a gallery right there. We want to discover the NFTs that you own automatically and show them in the wallet. Figure out the price, the base price for your assets automatically based on other similar tokens, for example, things like that. So we're planning a lot based on that.
And as far as the buying and selling of crypto, which exchange are you using? And are you planning to use other exchanges, or is just one at the moment?
So currently we have something set up with Wire. So you can just go to like the buy tab within the wallet and you can select Wire and it'll go directly into your wallet. But of course you can just use any exchange. Like we have some new tab page widgets for a bunch of the big exchanges, and you can buy there and you can transfer it in as well. We'll probably add some other things alongside Wire in the future as well for easy onboarding.
Got it. Let's talk about security, because I'm sure that's going to be a big question for everybody. Yeah. How safe are my funds using this wallet? Obviously, I know the private keys feature, right? You want to store those safely. But what if my laptop gets stolen, my laptop crashes, or what are security layers there to protect my assets?
So kind of like Andreas would say, like, not your keys, not your crypto. Right. So like the key is something you have to back up. So if you lose, if your computer dies or something like that, and you don't have a backup of your key right now, this is self-custody, so you're losing your funds, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of stress that the backup's important, and we keep like a banner there until you actually go through that backup process in the wallet. We are looking in the future at ways of doing like key splitting algorithms and things like that to kind of make it easier to onboard users. Like you can use like sign in with Google, and part of your key is stored that way and the other part is stored on your device, things like that. And then we could add like 2FA at that point for withdrawing funds, which would be a nice feature. But right now, when you're first setting up, we do show your HD seed for your wallet, and yeah, we expect the user has to back it up right now.
Got it. Yeah, I mean that's a way to go anyway, right? Not like you said, not your keys, not your crypto. So
Right.
you definitely want to have that backup secured. Um,
Yep.
Now, there's a bit. I was reading. There's the ability to connect to hardware wallets such as Ledger, Trezor, and so forth. Can you tell us about
Yep.
that?
Yeah, so right now it's kind of like a secondary account. Like you still have to create your HD account, but we're looking to change that to make it that you can just that can be your primary account only. So you don't even need an HD wallet, for example, just in software, you can just use that. But you can already once you connect it and you connect the accounts that you want, you can work with dApps and you can sign things and you can send transactions within the Brave browser directly from your hardware device. You don't need like to install Ledger Live or anything like that.
Oh wow, that's super convenient because I do use like hardware wallets, so that would be pretty cool to have that.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't need to use the Ledger Live app. You could just use the wallet. And
Right.
okay, very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and then mobile support is still coming. We're hoping to get it out this year, but uh, the like MetaMask, for example, on mobile, it's not built to be a browser, for example, and there's no extensions on Chrome either on mobile. So the opportunity is really big to have like a first class mobile wallet with Brave because we have like an awesome browser right,
Yeah.
built in. So having like dApp support built into that, like there's no alternative really. You can just have like kind of like MetaMask with a custom web view, which is not really good.
Right.
And you can't have extensions on Chrome, so it's going to be a game changer, I think, on mobile once we get that out.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm not saying that because I'm a fan of Brave, but just thinking of ease of use for consumers and new people to the crypto market. And then you guys have, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me on this number, over like 40 million users for the Brave browser, right?
Yeah, we have 42 million monthly active users, 14 million daily active users, and 1.3 million verified creators. And that info is a month old. So we're about to do new numbers. I don't know what they are yet, but it'll be higher. So, yeah.
Well, Brian, I'm going to ask you a question, and you can say I plead the fifth here because I asked Brendan the same thing. You know, Brave has been on the rise, getting a lot of adoption. I love the browser, I love the privacy aspect of it, given what's happening at large with GDPR and all kinds of stuff. Has Google come knocking your door saying, "Hey, we want to acquire Brave" or anything like
I wouldn't be able to share if they did, but no. I don't think that Brave is a good fit for Google, probably because it goes against how they monetize, right? Like they want your user data. That's what they built a business off of. So with Brave, we're not tracking any user data. We don't store any user data whatsoever. And if they were to, for example, acquire us, then we would just be basically making more users own their own data and not give it to Google, right? So I don't think it's a good fit for Google, probably, I would say.
But do you think in about 10 years, though, with the way things are going with privacy and decentralization, crypto leading that, right, and blockchain,
Yeah.
That Google's going to be like, oh man, we missed the boat, or maybe they're secretly building their own version of this, given once again where everything is headed?
Yeah, I'm not too worried that they're building their own version of this. I think they might be too pompous to realize that. But I agree with that. Maybe in 10 years they might regret that or realize that they missed the boat on this type of innovation.
For sure. So let's talk about Solana. And I think you may have touched on this. Tell us about this integration, why Solana was chosen, and does this kind of have any conflict with the current Ethereum network where basic attention tokens built on?
Yeah, so no conflict. Like BAT already exists on a bunch of different chains and L2s and other main chains like Solana. So like on Solana, you can use Wormhole and you can get SPL token BAT on the other side. So yeah, the idea with Solana is basically to support it and be the default dApp provider. Like the main benefit is you can do transactions really fast there. There's no like limitation on the number of transactions that you can do. You can do transactions for like 0.1 pennies and to 0.2 pennies, right? Compared to like if I do an Ethereum descend right now for ERC20 token, it probably costs me like $30 US, right? Yeah. So it's quite a difference. And then like we have built-in tipping in the browser, right? Like people can go and tip your YouTube channel, for example. But we'd really like to get to the point where we can do these things on chain. And it's just not feasible with like Ethereum in its current state. Like no one's going to tip $1 to you and pay $30 US in a transaction fee, right? But if it's 0.1 cents or 0.2 cents, then that becomes much more feasible. Solana also has like the anonymity aspect that we can do for, like we really want to decentralize Brave ads, and Solana is basically a better way to do that with unlinkability. So.
Yeah, I mean, to your point of the gas fees and the costs, it's kind of ridiculous, but glad there's other options out there. So yeah. Are there plans to add other chains like, similar to Ethereum and Solana, maybe Cardano, I don't know, Polkadot, obviously take your pick there. Are there plans to add more?
Yeah, we want to basically support as many as we can. And for those that have like dApp ecosystems, we want to support those as well. So we're just going to keep hacking away at it.
Very cool. I love that. And it's great to hear you guys are continuing to innovate and put out multiple iterations. There's a question I wanted to ask about. It has just escaped me. But I'll ask this next question. What's on the roadmap for Brave and Basic Attention Token? Obviously, you guys are doing a lot, but anything you can hint at over the next 6 months or so?
Yeah, so for the first half of the upcoming year, we want to have the Solana support done, shipped, and dApps and everything for it. Bitcoin support, Filecoin support. I don't think we'll have Bitcoin shipped by then, but we'll be well on our way to supporting it. Filecoin will probably be added by then. Better integration for other coins. Like right now you can add, for example, Polygon, right? Because it's an EVM compatible network and you can work with it. But if you go to brave.com/wallet and then you select Polygon, you'll see like the swap features disabled, for example. Or if you try to add a token, you have to manually add it yourself with the information. So like having better integration for those types of things so that like you can swap on Polygon just by selecting the Polygon network right within the Brave wallet. We'd like to get to that. Market tab. So basically when you log into the Brave wallet right now, it kind of shows like a flat bar for your portfolio for a brand new wallet, which is not very appealing to a brand new user. You can click into the asset and see like the price graphs that we have from CoinGecko. But just having like a list right there with all the crypto prices, just like CoinGecko would have, or CoinMarketCap. Like CoinMarketCap on my phone, it's nice for portfolio tracking, but for some reason it takes forever to load every time I go into it, and it's kind of annoying. So building something that I really want to use myself, I think is going to be good for portfolio tracking. And then I touched on the NFT ideas earlier, just way better NFT support. So something closer to OpenSea support right in the wallet.
I love the idea of by the way, the price feed within that, because you have a wallet, you can earn, and you have the price feed. It's like everything in one dashboard, but obviously a browser. So that's pretty cool.
Right.
Okay, the question I wanted to ask you just came back to mind. Tell us about the work you're doing to bring publishers on board, are people more open to the idea? Because I can imagine maybe years ago it's like, what are you guys talking about? What token, what crypto? But now things have changed completely, right? And there's a lot more adoption. Is it much easier to bring publishers on board?
I would say yes, for sure. At first, like people weren't sure about like what we were doing with the ad blocking, but wait, we're going to pay you to do the ad blocking. But now like everyone just kind of realizes that users that are ad blockers are just not going to decide not to be ad blockers. Like it's either lost revenue or you can recover some of that revenue by using Brave with that. So like we're only appealing to those users that are already blocking anyways. For the lost revenue portion anyways. Sure,
yeah, that makes sense. And I know there's a lot of people who use ad blockers now, concerned about data and privacy. This might be a weird question, but I'm definitely curious about it. When you buy laptops, whether it be Apple's, a MacBook or whatever it is, or a Sony, whatever, sometimes it comes with pre-installed software and browsers and stuff. Are there plans to work on getting any type of partnerships like that? And you may not be able to talk about it, but I'm just curious, if that's something like that's on the
Yeah.
roadmap.
There's nothing that I know about right now, but that's definitely a possibility. Those pre-installs typically, you have to basically pay for them, right? For them to happen. So it would be like something like 20 cents an install or something like that. So if we have the right partner for that and the right opportunity for that, yeah, it's something that we would entertain for sure.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So let's switch gears and talk about the crypto market. Want to get your thoughts on, where we're at right now. Obviously, I still think we're in a bull market. I still think there has to be a blow off top for Bitcoin. What are your thoughts around this? And do you have a Bitcoin price prediction?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm more on the expanding cycle model approach. So I'm thinking like our top's probably going to be like end of 2022 or something around there.
Oh, wow.
As for price prediction for Bitcoin, I probably shouldn't say anything because I'm a programmer, not a financial advisor. But I don't know. I would guess something like maybe 140,000 or something like that for this cycle. And then I think long term, like 10 years from now, I'm a full believer that it's going to like $1 million and above.
For sure. I think, to your point of those price predictions, we are seeing the adoption. Obviously, El Salvador's, they're all in. Michael Saylor this morning said MicroStrategy bought $400 million more of Bitcoin. We're seeing Bitcoin mining boom in the United States. What are your thoughts on this level of adoption we're seeing on multiple fronts?
I was kind of surprised about El Salvador's adoption like so early on, but I was at the same time happy to see it as well. I'm glad they didn't like just only say that this is the only national currency option. Like they still have USD as the other option that people can still have. But I think it's bullish that that happened, and it's nice to see a little fear entered into regulators because of it.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty amazing what's happening. But here in the United States, even though we've made a lot of progress, it seems there's still lack of regulatory clarity where the market can freely operate. Right now, there's still a level of risk and a little bit of looking over your shoulder, right? Will the SEC come after this person or that person? What are your thoughts on everything that's happening with the lawsuit against Ripple? They're going blocking Coinbase lending, the infrastructure bill, stable coins. What do you think about all this?
So SEC, like I'm a big fan of Hester Pierce. Is it Pierce or Pierce? I always wanted to
know. I first thought it was Pierce, and then she said it's Pierce. So
okay, I got it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big fan of her, and yeah, I guess I'll leave it at I do have XRP in my portfolio, so that should speak volumes.
Got it. Well, I'm hoping Congress can get some things right. I think they may be the ones that have to make the move. And just like they did with the internet, they allowed the innovation to grow and they fostered it. And a lot of great things came out of that. But I'm hoping Congress can step in and get this right soon.
For sure. Yeah. Infrastructure bill, more clarity would be nice for yeah, things are a little too vague right now, and I guess they'll probably have to amend it at some point, though.
Yeah, and I think there is some time because it doesn't go into effect till 2024, but we got maybe a year and a half to get that fixed.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on CBDCs? Because it seems like the central banks around the world are taking the blockchain technology. They're like, oh, we're going to put our fiat currencies on here and tokenize it, and it will distribute it digitally very easily. What are your thoughts on what's happening globally here?
So it might be nice for things like on-ramping into crypto, making it easier. That's one aspect that might be nice because for a typical person, sometimes in Canada at least, sometimes your wire transfers and things like that to an exchange get blocked. So that aspect might be nice, but I think CBDCs scare me like from a privacy aspect and just the intention of why they're doing it. And I just think it would lead to a lot of tracking and things like that, which is not good. So that aspect does scare me.
Yeah, it is, right. And hopefully the United States can get it right because obviously we have the Constitution. I know you're not in the United States, but we have the Constitution and the right to privacy, and hopefully they can find that balance, and maybe Canada as well, right? The same. What are your thoughts on DeFi? I'm curious if Brave and Basic Attention, you guys have any initiatives on this front. Version 1.0 has its flaws, but I do believe DeFi is here to stay. I mean, do you agree? And what is your outlook?
For sure. Like I can either keep money in a savings account that's earning like 0.001% interest, or I can earn 6 or 7% by having it in USDC or Gemini's USD dollar. I mean, DeFi is definitely here to stay, and I think like we're just touching the innovation of it. I think it's going to keep growing and doing better.
Are you guys planning to do anything with the basic attention token and anything DeFi related?
Yeah, I mean, we want to make this wallet awesome. So we're going to be doing all sorts of stuff with the wallet now. And like I said, like we built up a really, really great team with it. Like getting this wallet out, this is really just the very start of it. And we have this really nice team that's going to keep adding things to it.
Well, selfishly, I'm hoping, maybe we can get some staking or something like that if possible. But, I know you're
talking about it. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. What are your thoughts? And we touched on NFTs, but, the boom of the NFT market, and many are saying this is going to go beyond artwork, right? It's going to go into contracts and different things. What do you think? And do you own any NFTs?
I mean, I own NFTs like .eth domains like that, and I own some for testing the Brave wallet, but I didn't really I didn't buy any for like an investment. But that's not to say that I don't like believe in the potential, but I think the potential is huge for it. I do think there's a lot of garbage out there, just like there is with normal tokens as well. There's a lot of garbage out there, and it dilutes some of the good things out there. But I think the potential is huge, and it's just going to keep growing. And like future use cases like digital ownership, and I think it's just going to keep growing. Yeah,
for sure. Cool. So I want to jump to the wrap up questions here, such as if you were to create your own metaverse, what would it be about?
I think I would probably just start it with privacy in mind. So I don't think that's something like Facebook is going to do, but I would just basically make it about users own their own data right from the bat, and right from the bat. And not just have everything kind of spewed across the metaverse with your information and everyone owning parts of it, kind of like how ad tech works today.
Sure. So you're thinking you have your own metaverse, but no one can see it or whatever unless you give them maybe a private key or something to join or something like that.
Yeah, just built with good privacy fundamentals, and not having people's data stored everywhere and giving people's data to different sites and things like that.
Sure.
Only upon request and opt-in.
Well, it sounds like something Brave should do.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? Because I know a lot of people are not trusting Zuckerberg and Facebook right now. And to your point, who knows what they're going to do with your metaverse data, right? And what you're doing in the metaverse and what you're building. So I think Brave would be a great company to do that.
Yeah, we have a lot of things going on for the time being, but maybe in several years.
yeah. I mean, look, I'm just throwing it out there, Brian. But
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do some rapid fire. Favorite food?
Probably Thai food, I think.
Favorite musician or band?
I'd probably have to say Walk Off the Earth. So like a band in Ontario. They do like a lot of pop music covers and things like that.
Awesome. Favorite movie?
I'm gonna be old school here and still say Braveheart. Been my favorite movie for like forever.
Yeah, that's it. Funny enough, that's my favorite movie as well.
Is it really? Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was in an interview the other day and I talked about it. I was like, yeah, Braveheart's one of my favorites. Well, my favorite. And favorite book?
I have a lot of favorite books. I like Endurance by Alfred Lansing. It's like a expedition story to Antarctica, survival story where their ship sunk. It's a really good book. I like Lord of the Rings series. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins is a good book to get you pumped up and getting out there. Yeah, probably those three.
I'm a David Goggins fan as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of stuff, pretty motivational, right? To just get off your butt and get going, right?
Yeah, he's pretty crazy, but in a good way.
Yeah. And when you're not working on Brave or basic attention token, what are you doing for fun as a hobby?
Just spending as much time as I can with family. I do a lot of running too. I go out like maybe 2-3 hours a day, but I try to get that like really early in the morning, and then I have the whole day free to spend with family. So mostly family activities.
That's awesome. Brian, a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm looking forward to all the cool features and additions to Brave and Basic Attention Token.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Cheers.